Said, in the situation
Answer me those questions, please. Go on, sir.
in the situation of al-wilayah, is it a Muslim is it only this? Because I know the hakim can be a wali if she doesn't have a wali.
Naam, the hakim can be a wali if she hasn't got a wali. So your question was?
Is it only nasab? Is it only connected through nasab, al-wilayah?
Walay, no, the walay is not connected. As-Sultan waliyu man la waliya laha. The sultan is the wali of the woman that doesn't have a wali. So مثلا if a woman doesn't have a wali, مثلا her father's passed away, she doesn't have any children, no siblings, no brothers. The wali is going to be, the sultan is going to be her wali. مثلا a woman accepts Islam and she's the only Muslim from her family, then she goes to the imam or the imam of the masjid or the mahkama and so on, he's the wali for her. So it's not necessarily connected. This is a very good question. How do we combine between a woman traveling without a mahram for Hajj and that the Prophet's wives went to Hajj after his death without a mahram? Firstly, we have to establish that they went to Hajj without a mahram. We have to establish that they went to Hajj without a mahram. Also, even if they went Hajj with Umar radiallahu anhu. If we say that they did go without Hajj, without a mahram, then they went with Umar radiallahu anhu. And Umar was the wali of the Muslims. He was the Khalifa of the Muslims. Right. Also, even, مثلا for example, it is unexpected from the Sahaba, female companions of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to perform Hajj without a mahram, to travel without a mahram. Right. So it is almost expected that they did have mahrams. But if we do affirm that they did not have mahrams, then they went with Umar radiallahu anhu. And Umar was the leader of the Muslims at the time. Right. Also, if a companion does an action which contradicts the hadith of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam unintentionally, a companion can never oppose the hadith of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam intentionally. Maybe that hadith did not reach him or her and so on. Lakin, even if a companion accidentally, because of not hearing of this hadith, opposes a hadith from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where's the hujjah in, where's the proof in? The words of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam or the action of that specific companion? The words of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I think that's a good question.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't you say a woman, her mahram is someone that can't permanently marry her?
No.
And the wives of the Prophet can never permanently marry her?
But the wives of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that's the last point I forgot to mention, the wives of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam are what? Ummahatul mu'minin. They are the mothers of the believers. So it is haram to marry them ala ta'bid.
The rest of the ummahs then mahram.
Technically, you can, not necessarily their mahram, but it is haram for them to marry. Haram to marry the wives of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They are mothers.
And second one, how would you, the hadith that you gave, you saying that the day and night, a woman can't travel a distance day and night with her mahram. How would you...
Day and night meaning the distance. The scholars talk about the distance. With this
that lives within them places. But they can do that in the day and night.
When we're talking about the day and night, the scholars allocate it to be what? A travelling distance between day and night, which is what? When you're talking at the time of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to go 70 or 80 kilometers used to take time. So when a person is traveling, it's not, they won't be constantly traveling, they'll be traveling, stopping, take 10 miles, stop, so on and so on. The means of transportation were very different those days. So nowadays you can cut 70 miles in less than 2-3 hours. So we look at the milestone that the scholars have set, or the narrations have set, which is about 80 kilometers, or the custom, the norm for traveling. If a woman travels to a country with a mahram and her wali leaves her in that land, is this allowed? So she lives in the land of that. Now, if a woman goes with her wali to another country Even Hajj, that's actually a good question. If she goes from, مثلا, if her wali takes her to Mecca, leaves her there, she can perform Hajj. Because the manasik, the places where a person goes to Hajj, is not travelling distance. Arafah, Mina, Muzdalifah, these are not travelling distances to Mecca. These are literally within Aziziyah or Mecca, they're connected now. Mina, they're connected now. Right. So if he takes her to this location, in that location she doesn't need a mahram. So if he takes her to a different country, during that location, during her time in that place, she doesn't need a mahram. She only needs a mahram for travelling. Is a woman's discharge classed as impure, and what is the difference? A woman's discharge, the scholars differ over is it pure or impure, but the what is understood is that it is, in any case, it nullifies wudu. Now what is the difference between wuduba and wadi? The difference between wuduba and wadi, wuduba is just moist that comes out of the private parts, and it is not necessarily due to illness, it can be due to heat and so on. Like in wadi, more often than not, it comes out after urine, and it is kind of connected to an illness or problem within the body, lack of vitamins and so on.
You see, when it comes to the travelling of the woman, is the illah with the reasons because of the hope and faith?
No, that's not the illah. That's a good question. When a woman's travelling, we can't say the illah, the reason is khawf. That's a very good question. And this is the benefit of attending the class and not listening online. Jazakumullah khairan. You may benefit more from the questions of other students of knowledge and their inputs than you actually benefit from the lesson. Al-illah is a reason, is a shar'i reason. مثلا, for example, لا يقضي القاضي وهو غضبان. The qadi cannot give a hukum while he's angry. So the illah is what? His tashwish al-dhihn, his mind is not fully there. طيب. What about if he's angry? Same. Why? Because the illah, the reason is still there. طيب. What about if a person is extremely happy?
No.
Likewise, the illah is still there. He's meant to give a judgment, and he's thinking about the fact that, he's being proposed to. So he's extremely happy. Therefore, he's not going to give the correct hukum, or may not give the correct hukum. So the illah is there. That means, if that illah is not there, so if the person is fully there and he's not happy, not angry, and he's okay, he's calm, in okay situation, he can give a hukum, sah? So this illah is not there. But now, with the illah that Abdullah mentioned, which is the fear, there being fear there, we can't say that is not the illah. We can say that's a hikmah, that's a wisdom, but not the illah. Because if you say it is an illah, it means that if there is no fear, she can travel on her own. So مثلا, if we're going to another city now, in our group, and we're in a coach, just us, 40-50 people, are the sisters in fear? La, they're not in fear. Alhamdulillah, they're with their brothers, over 30 brothers. Lakin, if we say that illah is fear, that means they're allowed to travel on their own with us. But that is not the case. Illah is not fear is not the illah here, it's not the reason here. It is a hikmah, it is a wisdom. So that's one of the wisdoms.
So the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, I can't remember the exact wording, he said, لا تسافر المرأة. What was the, do you remember the hadith where, anyway, the hadith, the wording, the Prophet ﷺ doesn't mention, he mentions, so my question basically is saying, is the tahrim here lidati, because the love of the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, لا تسافر, يعني, and the illah or the hikmah is mustanbata, right, is taken from it.
Yeah.
So can a person now, for the whole that person says that the illah is fair, can we take the illah mustanbata over the lafz of the hadith if it's taken from it?
No, because the difference is the illah that is mustanbata, firstly that is a hikmah. Like let's say for argument's sake, it is an illah that is mustanbata, illah that we have derived, this next alim might not derive that same illah, and he may not agree with you on that same illah. Because he doesn't agree with you on that same illah, then we can't make that the manam, the point of evidence for this hadith. So we leave it as that. We leave the hadith as that. The Messenger ﷺ said she's not allowed to travel. We can derive 10 or 20 different wisdoms of why she's not allowed to travel. Lakin the illah, the Messenger ﷺ
part of
Yes, نعم مسالك العلة يعني how to establish, that's another fun in أصول الفقه. We'll study in أصول الفقه إن شاء الله. مسالك العلة, how to point out the illas, what is, how to justify or how to establish and derive the illah, and that illah is connected to qiyas, and qiyas is from the evidences of the sharia, and it's a bab in أصول الفقه.
What I meant was based on his question, so you can't use that yani, over other qiyas, you can't use it over another qiyas except with clear evidence.
Like if we say it's a illah and it's mustanbata,
No.
it depends on obviously how it is mustanbat. مصدر التقسيم and so on. لكن we implement hadith, can a woman's ex-husband's son be a mahram for her? Now based upon the fact that he's related to her through marriage, because she's now his mother. She doesn't need to wear the hijab in front of him. She doesn't need to wear the hijab in front of him. He can kiss her on the head and so on. That's his mother. Fadal.
If someone is from, if someone works in a,
I think his ex-husband's aunt. So
Nevertheless, his her ex-husband's son.
I thought, well, was that the one?
Yeah, he can never marry her.
Alright.
That's his mother, ex-husband's son.
And what if it's son from another wife?
La, that's different. If he's son from another wife, that's different.
So maybe that's Allah.
Yeah, listen, you guys are confused. He's مثلا Khadija, her husband's name is what? Muhammad. Muhammad has a son called Ali. Yeah, so that he's Ali ibn Muhammad, that's his son. Right. He marries, Ali is married to this woman, but so Muhammad is married to this woman, Khadija, like Ali is not the son of Khadija. That's his father's wife. His father's wife. وَلَا تَنْكِحُوا مَا نَكَحَ. Don't marry those who your father said. That's his mother. That's the abad, no. You don't have to marry anyone that your father marries. If a woman and her husband can afford to perform Hajj, and they both have physical ability to perform Hajj, but her husband does not allow them to go, are they sinful? No, he's sinful. He's sinful for not allowing her to go Hajj, because she needs him to go Hajj.
if someone works in a charity organization and they're from Ahlul Bayt, from the lineage of the Prophet ﷺ,
From the descendants of the Messenger ﷺ,
know that they can't take sadaqah. Or would you, for example, if someone's payment comes, for example, the charity, they pay you through the money that comes from sadaqah, can you take that money? Because it's your wages, but at the same time it's coming from sadaqah.
repeat the question.
If somebody works in a charity organization and the payment, the wages come through the charity, the money they collected from sadaqah, and this person from Ahlul
Donation.
from zakat. No, sadaqah. Can they take that money? Because initially they're from Ahlul Bayt, they can't take sadaqah, but it's wages.
They're taking, in this case, they're taking this money because it's work.
So it's amilina alayha.
Salary.
They're working, they're taking it as a salary, but they're not taking it as charity.
Okay, so
It's not like they're saying at the end of the month or wherever it may be that we are in need, therefore give us part of this money. No, they're working. He can be an accountant and he can be setting up the finances of that organization. The fact that it is charity, it's now changed hands. So for him it's not charity, for him it's working.
so it falls under that amilina alayha, those people.
Allah, possibly, but
Possibly, لكن the reason why he's taken this is not because of sadaqah, لكن
They're not directly.
we should, we'll see inshallah. But لكن just as a side benefit, some of the scholars say that Ahlul Bayt, they can take sadaqah if there is no mal, Bayt al-Mal, if there is no Bayt al-Mal. Take that as a side benefit. If a woman can afford, because they need obviously, and they can't get the khumus from jihad. If a woman can't afford Hajj for herself. If a woman can afford Hajj for both herself and her husband, is it wajib for her to pay for him so she can do Hajj? La, it's not wajib for her to pay on his behalf. I think above asked the sister to ask this question. If a woman, the trickery of people. If a woman can afford Hajj, nah, it's not wajib for her to pay for him. He needs to pay for himself. He needs to pay for himself. Lakin, no, she needs to pay for himself. If anything, it's wajib for him to pay for her as well. If anything, if we're going to say it's wajib for one of them. But she doesn't. And likewise, she doesn't necessarily have to pay for another mahram to take her as well. She doesn't have to necessarily pay for someone else to take her as well.
What if someone saves up enough money for Hajj, but then they say they want to use that money to either go abroad to seek knowledge or to get married?
To get married, if the person fears of falling into fawahish and falling into fitna, then it is more befitting that they get married. It is more befitting that they get married because of what they can fall into, and also that will come under their basic necessities. As for talab al-ilm, Allahu a'lam, because Hajj is wajib, it's a rukn min arkan al-Islam, and talab al-ilm is nafila, so not for talab al-ilm, Allahu a'lam.
I thought I had a question as well. I was kind of waiting to be in the end, but this.
No, go.
Okay, well, my question is, I was more like, if you could give a nasiha, inshallah ta'ala, to people who they possess money, right? But what they do is they constantly make themselves not have the ability to go. So what they do is stuff like they go holidays a lot throughout the year. But if you was to just take out 2 of their holidays in the year, they could easily have the money.
They need to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's extremely sad to see Muslims going on holiday when they haven't gone to Hajj. It's subhanallah. Okay, Allah Jalla wa ala made it the 5th pillar of Islam. Allah did not make holidays the 5th pillar of Islam. Allah Jalla wa ala made Hajj the 5th pillar of Islam. So if that person has fallen into a sin in the sense that Hajj was wajib upon him immediately. Sure, if these masail that we're studying, that answer is meant to come from the students. This person that Sheikh Abdulrahman mentioned, what's his ruling?
You take the money from him because it's not, I forgot the word. Safi?
No, not Safi, he's not Safi, he's not a foolish person, no. Based on the hadith, is Hajj wajib immediately or is Hajj wajib once upon, somewhere along the line? Immediately. So what is he doing? He's sinful for that. So a person that's going here and there, going on holidays, once having the financial means to go to Hajj, he is sinning. For every single holiday he goes on without going to Hajj, then he is sinning. Because that's the meaning by, when we were studying earlier on, that يجب على الفور, immediately a person has to go.
To carry on from the question, that person is like a bit irresponsible with money, saving enough out enough, and they spend their money as it comes. So they save the money for Hajj, but they spend as they go.
Like if they spend it as it goes, that's just bad management. But we can't say they're sinful because
Similar question.
yeah, we can't say they're sinful. They're just bad management.
So the collective money accumulates, then they're sinful if they don't go.
Yeah, if they've got the ability. Now, if they've got the ability financially to go and physically, but if they've got the financial ability to go, like if they don't have the financial ability, be it because of not having the finances or be it because of bad management, then obviously they're not blameworthy in that sense. And this is like so if a person saves enough money to go and then spend the money on something else, does the wajib leave the person, or is it still wajib they no longer have the money? It's whether they have money or not, it is wajib upon them. As for if they are blameworthy or not, that's something else. مثلا الآن Allah Jalla wa Alam, we know that from the pillars of Islam is what? Hajj. So Hajj is wajib upon all of us. Like as individuals, if we don't have the financial ability, then it is not wajib. Now if this person saves money, and then he spends it on something else, we can't necessarily mean that they are, firstly it is obviously wajib upon them, but we can't say they're blameworthy because they may have spent that money on something which is more beneficial. More beneficial. Like they may have spent that money on saving someone from dying, for example. Or someone may have been imprisoned and now they paid a ransom fee for this person and so on, and they're held hostage.
There's a question here, but it's not to do with the dars though. You might want to take down.
Yeah, should a person recite Ruqya or something with reference of Sahih? Should a person recite Ruqya ayat upon oneself to remove effects of sihr and touch of the jinn, or should they continue to seek Ruqya from other people? Until from another? No, they should, as much as they can, they should read Quran on themselves, read Ruqya on themselves, and the dua, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the hadith of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam on themselves. And don't forget the hadith in which the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said 70,000 people will be raised in this ummah, 70,000 entering into Jannah bighayri hisab wa la iqab. They will enter Jannah without being tried and without being punished. And when the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was asked who they were, from them he said, لا يستغفرون الذين لا يستغفرون, those who are not asking others to do ruqya, not themselves, they do it themselves, like they don't ask other people to do it on themselves, to do it for them, upon them. Therefore it's better that a person does it, because there's kamal tawakkul and kamal yaqeen, there's complete tawheed and complete yaqeen, certainty in the cure coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if they do go to someone else, inshallah they're not blameworthy. Allahu A'lam.
Okay, brothers and sisters, Jazakumullah khair. We've gone over our time. There's one more question here live, so we'll take this one. It's not related to the question, to the class, but it said, but sorry, this is not related to the class. Is the hadith of Ayman bin Ayman bin Tha'laba authentic? Is
The hadith of Abu Hurairah. What hadith? No, I don't know what hadith the person is referring to. I don't know. Contract that online. Let's continue for now, because we'll send them off. Yeah, we ask him that.
Should we take this one next week?
Where is it? Which one comes first, Hajj or Zakah? مثلا, a person has, the question is, this is a good question, right? If a person accumulates enough money for Hajj, so they have enough money for Hajj, but now Zakah is due. Zakah is due, and it's wajib because it's reached in the nisab and they've had it for more than a year. Upon the money, which one's paid? Like if you pay, it will remove their ability, meaning it will decrease the amount that they need to perform Hajj. Which one comes first? Which one comes first, you reckon? Zakah. Naam, Zakah comes first. Zakah comes first.
What's the reason?
Firstly, when Zakah is mentioned before the Hajj in all of the ahadith talking about the pillars of Islam. Also, Hajj is only after a person is above a certain threshold. Like with regards to Zakah, there's the haqq of someone else, the haqq, the right of the fuqara. The right of the fuqara. So if a person has a certain amount of wealth, the money that they have more often than not won't always be enough for zakah. Like if they've got enough money and there's zakah that is wajib upon it, then it is only a small amount that they will pay. So which means if a person's money is being decreased because of the zakah, more often than not they won't have enough money for zakah. It's worth asking. We'll go back into it, we'll look into it inshallah. That's a good question.
Barakallahu feekum. Just before you go, inshallah ta'ala, just next week inshallah mumkin.
Write it down, I won't forget.
Inshallah ta'ala, I just wanted to say a point, inshallah ta'ala, before you brothers and sisters go. We're back here, alhamdulillah, and I'm sure all of you have the nostalgia and the excitement and all of that is present at the beginning of classes and dawrat and stuff like that. Inshallah, let's make sure we have this throughout the whole journey of the book, inshallah ta'ala, or specifically this chapter as well. And we always see whenever we start at the beginning of a chapter or a particular book, the classes are mashallah mumtali, alhamdulillah, and it's surur, happy to see. But then as we start progressing throughout the book, we see a decay. And sometimes the book, as it progresses, it gets more better and the knowledge is more juicy, but people disappear. So for husn al-dhan, we won't be conducting those contracts that we normally do. Okay, so but we just want to urge, inshallah ta'ala, you stay and you finish this chapter, especially those stuff that are directly wajibat on you. Okay, so right now, if you possess the ability and the money and there's nothing to prevent you from going Hajj, right, apart from vaccines, then you have to make sure that you strive, inshallah ta'ala. Just wanted to stress on that, Bidin al-Kareem. Make sure we see the same numbers throughout the whole of this chapter, inshallah ta'ala.
Jazakallah khair. That's extremely important. And I'll be honest with you, the teacher is only as motivated as the students. If the teacher finds the students are dedicated and they're asking these sorts of questions, now these sorts of questions are excellent, fantastic questions, and the questions that the brothers have asked, because it shows that these students are interacting in the class and it shows they're understanding the content. So when a teacher sees that gives them it gives them encouragement. Like if a teacher knows that these students are not dedicated and there's only going to be 4 of them and those 4 haven't revised or anything, somewhere along the line he's not going to prepare the class. Preparing the class, ikhwan, it takes time. All of these mistakes, they take time to look, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 hours to review the class beforehand in order to deliver the class. Now, it's not fair on the teacher that he delivers or she spends 5-4 hours preparing the class and then the students come late, or the students don't even come, or the students don't pay attention. And the fact that if students drop out, that affects the other students, because the teacher's not going to be motivated when he sees that the students are not even revising and reviewing what the students have already been taught. And just as a side benefit, you might want to go to the explanations of Khulasat Ta'deem al-Ilm. There's more than one explanation on the I'tisam YouTube page of Khulasat Ta'deem al-Ilm. Sheikh Muhammad explained it, and there was also the Dawah in the summer. The etiquettes of the student of knowledge. So the fact that you're here now, you are the last line of defense for the Muslim Ummah. The students of knowledge, the scholars, the mashayikh, they are the last line of defense for the students, for this Muslim Ummah. And the reason why we need to review knowledge is because what was musallam recently, and I heard this benefit from Sheikh Salih Hassan hafidhahullah just today, what was musallam yesterday, what was a given fact yesterday, today is not musallam. Mathalan, I'll give an example. Nikah, the scholars, when they were given the ta'rif, they give a ta'rif, the contract of this and this. Now that's common sense, and the fuqaha, they would, it was given, musallam, it was a given fact. Nowadays, when mashayikh and students are explaining the kitab of nikah, they need to stress that nikah is a contract between a man and a woman. Shuf. Why? Because we're being tortured ideologically, because there's a war going on, the war of afkar and ideologies. So there's ideological terrorism going on amongst the Muslims, upon the Muslims. The Muslims are the only ummah that is holding on to their book and the sunnah of their messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And the only way we can do that is if we learn and we spread that knowledge. Every single one of us if they teach what they learn, you are able to rectify the ummah and the community. So you are at thagab, you are at a standpoint. You are at a point where you are defending the ummah and you are defending the religion of Allah Jalla wa Ala. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, "Bada al-Islam qariban wa sayu'udu qariban." Islam started something strange and it will return to being something strange. Fatuba lil-quraba, glad tidings to the quraba. In the other narrations, the Messenger explained who these quraba are. الَّذِينَ يُصْلِحُونَ مَا أَفْسَدَ النَّاسِ وَمَا أَفْسَدَهُ النَّاسِ. Those who are rectifying and making correct that which the people make corrupt and destroy. Therefore, if we are the last line of defense for this ummah, especially this community in the UK, we are the last line of defense. If we prefer chilling out at home and going to socializing events and so on, as to attending classes, then salamun ala hadhihi ummah. And this ummah has no hope unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Allah Jalla wa Ala will bring other people who are better than us to aid this religion. So by making you students of knowledge, it is not something that is just for the sake of it. No, it is not an accident. Allah Jalla wa Ala has given you this gift of being a student of knowledge, has given you this gift of defending this religion. Every one of you is at a point, it's like we're in jihad. If we're in jihad and you can see the enemy there, and there are 10 people standing, if one falls down, it's going to affect who? The other 9. Why? Because the enemies will shoot this person's direction from this person's direction, and it was a ricochet on the backs of these ones. Like if we stand firm like that, then this ummah has hope, and inshallah there's a lot of good in you. May Allah Jalla wa Ala bless you. Allahu A'lam.
Ameen. Barakallah fikum, ikhwan. So inshallah ta'ala we see you all next week. If it's snowing next week, there's class next week. As long as staff can come from his house to here. So inshallah we see you all next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
That was excellent.